Good morning. I'm going to try to stay even-keeled today. I really am. But if you paid any attention to the political landscape over this past weekend and the last few days, you know my tolerance has officially left the building. I have an internal WTF-meter. This weekend, the needle hit the max and broke, which means my filter is a little full too. But I will still try to honor safe harbor hours, or there's going to be blanks in the middle where I edit out. I apologize. My name is Sarah. Welcome to Ethos Trek. I think we need a collective reminder about the difference between two words that we constantly mix up: policy and politics. Policy is the blueprint. It's the boring stuff. It's the math, the funding mechanisms, the infrastructure, and the law. Policy answers the adult question: how are we actually going to build this thing? Who pays for it? And how do we measure if it works? Politics, on the other hand, is just the marketing campaign. It's the viral video, the fundraising email, the soundbite, and the theater. Traditionally, the Democrats and the Republicans used to argue over competing blueprints. They generally agreed on the goals: a healthy workforce, a functioning economy, stable international relations. But they fundamentally disagreed on the mechanics. Democrats leaned toward collective government action. Republicans leaned toward free market, individual solution. It was a debate about the means to an end. Today, we are trapped in a multi-billion-dollar marketing campaign where neither side actually wants to build the house. They just want to make sure the other guy doesn't get to hold the hammer. The ruling principle of modern Washington is reflexive opposition. If they are for it, I am against it. Washington increasingly resembles a school playground conflict with nuclear codes. Let's look at the last few days. There are continuing human rights violations and excessive force complaints about ICE facilities and ICE agents. Oversight is not only lawful, it's required. Monday, Andy Kim, U.S. Senator from New Jersey, was pepper sprayed at an ICE facility in New Jersey. This is not the first complaint about this particular facility, and it's not the first time lawmakers have been assaulted for conducting legal and necessary oversight. An adult looking at these situations asks, what are the operational protocols here? Who authorized this level of force? How do we fix the systemic breakdown of this agency? But what did the two parties do? In both cases, as usual, they focused on the wrong part of the problem and became the problem. Instantly, the political machine whirred into motion. One side blamed the left's rhetoric. The other side used it to bash the right. They turned a serious human rights and institutional accountability issue into a political football to score points on each other. Meanwhile, the actual institution escapes accountability because the kids are too busy pointing fingers and name-calling. Then we have the House passing a sweeping bill focused on school names and pronouns. They call it the Protect Kids Act, claiming it, quote, restores educational sanity, unquote. But let's look at the actual reality of what they wrote. School districts already have strict guidelines regarding official student records. What this federal bill actually does is create a massive, ridiculous bureaucratic barrier. Because of how it is written, a student would technically need a signed parental consent form before calling a student Bubba instead of Bobby, or Sarah instead of Seraphim, or Billy instead of William. The way it is written, teachers couldn't call a student kiddo without a signed permission slip. Think about how wildly out of touch you have to be to spend federal legislative energy regulating childhood nicknames. They didn't pass this to help underfunded classrooms or improve literacy rates. They passed it so they could go on cable news, stoke culture war intolerance, trigger the other side, and clip a 15-second video for a fundraising email. Speaking of embarrassing theater, did you see Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry traveling to Greenland? He went up there as part of a Trump-linked charm offensive, walking around the Arctic handing out MAGA caps to local kids and literally telling them that if they came to the governor's mansion in Louisiana, they could have, quote, all the chocolate chip cookies you can eat, unquote. This is our foreign policy now. We have a sitting U.S. governor playing cookie diplomacy in the Arctic, getting openly mocked by the Prime Minister of Greenland, who had to go on television to remind a global superpower that their national sovereignty is not up for bake sale barter. It's deeply humiliating. And also why we tell our kids not to talk to strangers with candy or cookies. There's the moral collapse of the brand. Where are the principles? Let's talk about the claims versus the reality. The Republicans claim to be the party of law and order, yet we're watching them tie themselves in knots to protect and defend January 6th rioters, blocking measures that would prevent taxpayer payouts from going to pardoned insurrectionists who happen to be convicted prolific child predators. The moment law and order applies to someone wearing their political jersey, the principle vanishes. And the Democrats aren't doing much better. They claim to be the party of peace and progress. Yet the War Powers Bill sits languishing because they refuse to assert actual constitutional authority over endless foreign conflicts. And when the pressure gets turned up in competitive districts, a handful of House Democrats will happily cross the aisle to vote for that ridiculous nickname bill, sacrificing vulnerable kids to protect their own re-elections. Growing up, my family had a weekend ritual. All of us kids, my parents, and whatever four-legged beasties we had running around at the time would gather in the kitchen. We would turn on the radio and listen to Garrison Keillor deliver the news from Lake Wobegon on public radio. It was slow, it was unhurried, and it felt completely rooted in a shared human reality. Watching Bernie Sanders travel through Maine this past Memorial Day weekend, hitting Orono and Portland on his Fighting Oligarchy tour, it gave me a strange flash of nostalgia. Kind of reminded me of Keillor. Except it's Keillor without the jokes. Love his progressive platform or hate it. There is an undeniable delta between a guy talking plainly about real human stress and the rest of the Capitol running around acting like reality TV contestants. Bernie stands up there, hair flying, completely ignoring the television cameras, and just tells people how it is. He doesn't look at the audience and offer them magical infomercial solutions. He doesn't say he can wave a wand and fix a 50-year structural crisis by Tuesday if you just click donate. Although, to be fair, has anyone actually tried a Bogart banishing spell? Ridiculous. Yeah, no, still clowns. Back to Bernie. He looks them in the eye and he says, this is wrong. It's deeply rooted, and it's going to take massive, grueling, long-term work to fix it. We are so starved for adult leadership in this country that an elected official simply stating plain, uncomfortable facts feels like a profound revelation. We've spent years hoping that Washington would somehow, magically, mature on its own. It's not going to happen. Children don't raise themselves, and modern politicians don't regulate themselves. If a contractor came to your house, didn't bring any blueprints, spent 3 hours screaming at the contractor across the street, and then demanded you pay them anyway, you'd fire them on the spot. So stop buying tickets to the theater. Stop sharing viral clips of politicians, quote unquote, destroying each other in committee hearings. Stop rewarding the tantrums with your clicks, your attention, and your money. If we want adult leadership in this country, we have to start being the adults in the voting booth. Next time a politician asks for your vote, don't ask them who they hate. Demand to see the blueprint. I like to be called Sarah. I'm a little bit over 18 and remarkably overeducated, but still always learning more. I don't think I need parental approval to be called Sarah instead of the full seraphim, but perhaps that's what Congress will pass next. Thank you for listening. This is Ethos Trek.